Thank you
Got
so
it.
much, Sasha, for being here with us today for this Great School of Voices interview. Just to start off, if you could just introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sasha Ritzie-Hernandez, and I was born in Mexico. I'm actually from a small Afro-Indigenous community in the south part of Mexico in Guerrero. I was born in Acapulco, but I grew up in Costa Chica in a very small town. Um, After a few years, my family decided to move to the city, and giving just violence, natural disasters, and many other things, my family made the difficult decision to move to the United States. So my father and my brother migrated first, and then my mother and I joined them shortly after. One of the many reasons why I was able to succeed in school in many ways was because my family, both my mom and dad, were very involved in my education. For them, it was really hard to navigate the education system here in the U.S., and so I had to become their interpreter and their advocate. Both my mom and dad achieved higher education back home. My dad was a doctor. My mom was a teacher for over 20 years. And so when they came here, my dad became a gardener. My mom was cleaning Holy Names University, which is my university where I graduated from. But my family, my mom and dad are really one of the reasons why I'm sitting here today. Um, as a student, I value their efforts to really be champions in my education and not wanting me to fall through the cracks, which we have seen um with a lot of our students. Unfortunately, we have an education system that is not always the most welcoming environment for our families, for our students. And we're seeing people not wanting to be in school for multiple reasons, whether it's safety, bullying, um, just a lot of challenges that we are facing as a community. But the passion and love that I felt by, by becoming my parents' advocate is the reason why I became a parent organizer. I'm not a parent myself, but I was able to take the experiences of supporting my family through my day-to-day job. So I've been a family engagement specialist for the last 10 years. Um, Particularly focusing on preparing families for school, making sure that they know their rights. I did a lot of workshops around leadership development, and I always thought that if I could transfer the love and passion and just all of the great things that I was able to do with my family, that if I could replicate it in other families or just try to, do some of that work, like I would be in a happy place because I love working with the parents. And so, for the last 10 years, I've also encouraged parents to become their advocates for their children. And that advocacy sometimes translated to them coming to the school boards and asking for better policies or to pass policies. Um, and I empower them to build relationships with their board members and elected officials. And so for me, I feel like it's becoming a natural progression for me to try to run for school board, given that I've been empowering families and being in the background, doing a lot of organizing to improve our education system. And unfortunately, when we're looking at those policies, they're not always implemented. And that has come to really disempower or just create a lack of trust within our community because we know that our representatives are not always moving the work forward to ensure that our students are doing well academically, that they're safe. And so that lack of trust is one of the reasons why I decided to run, because I feel like family engagement is a priority and you could really support advancing our district. And it's not always at the center. So I would like to shift the narrative and look at our families for who they are, who are our incredible assets to our community, that come with incredible knowledge, that come from different parts of the world. And we need to celebrate that diversity, and we got to create a more welcoming environment for our families. Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Thanks for your answer.
Mhm.
Yeah, I have some questions here. These are questions that were submitted by Oakland Youth. They're part of the Oakland Youth Commission, and they had
Mhm.
some questions that they wanted to ask you. So, just to start off, the first question is about school safety. Um, School
Mhm.
safety is a major concern for everyone in Oakland, especially with several school shootings in the last year on Oakland high school campuses. What ideas do you bring to the table to improve school safety?
There are a couple of ideas that I have brought forward. And one of them, and I think, and this is one of them that I'm really, really passionate about, is that the every school has a safety plan, and so ensuring that our safety plans are not only known by the school community, but really working to disseminate the information to the community, because the last thing we need when there's a crisis or there's an emergency for our families to not know what to expect, who to call. So we want to ensure that all of our established emergency plans are also informed to our families, that our families know what to expect. In addition to that, one of the things that's come up, because I spend at least once or twice a week, I really try to spend as much time at the school sites, and I've had multiple conversations with staff. And so one thing that's come to light is that in the beginning of the school year, our teachers received a training, and some of the teachers shared with me that unfortunately the training was not trauma informed, and it wasn't culturally competent, which can be a challenge, because we want to ensure that if we have safety trainings or anything in relationship to um, the potential of a crisis or an emergency, we want to be as sensitive as possible. So one of the things that I will be very committed to in terms of safety is also ensuring that wherever curriculum is available to our community also is piloted by the community, that is reviewed by the community, to ensure that we take in consideration our demographic, that we take in consideration our diversity, and that that what we are trying to do is to inform the community to prevent harm. And so sometimes when we are not eloquent with our words, or when we're not really intentional about the trainings, it can cause more harm than it can benefit the community. Now, regardless of what happens on November 7th, my commitment will be safety. So I am already thinking and planning about what these moments leading up to election can support um me getting a better sense of what the community is, as far as like solutions for safety. Now, the other thing that is at the table, and if elected, I will be pushing for, is the full implementation of the George Floyd resolution. So again, I'm not interested in recreating prisons in our schools. That is something that I don't want to do. That further but that further pushes our students through the school to prison pipeline by recreating those systems within our schools. So I'm not interested in bringing the police back, or not interested in recreating those systems in our in our school sites. But but I am interested in hearing from the community and implementing more restorative justice, which I hear from from the students is super important. Mental health support for that's one of the conversations that I've been having, is like, we don't need just, I mean, we need mental health services for everyone. And some of our teachers have also experienced some really challenging things. So making sure that our entire community feels like they will be supported and that the services are available to them. So those are some of the things that I'm thinking about in terms of safety.
Thank you
Mhm,
very much. Thank you. Appreciate you.
mhm.
Yeah, the next question has to do with graduation. So graduation rates have been steadily improving, but still average at 75% of OUSD students. What do you think can be done to boost graduation rates to 100% for all Oakland students, OUSD students?
Yeah, it's really interesting because I've just been looking at some data around our district. And one of the two of the biggest challenges is literacy and math. So definitely, one of the things that I feel like is missing in our district that can support our academic achievement is really evaluating the programs that we have in place now, see what are the best practices, what is working, but also being innovative. If things are not, if we keep buying the same product or using the same service and we're not receiving the results that we need, then there needs to be a shift. So I'm very interested to see what programs are working in our districts, in our district, I'm sorry, so that way we can share best practices. That's another thing that I'm really interested in, is creating an opportunity for us to work together, because as a community, specifically in District 5, I want us to get to a space where schools are talking about what is working for them, what isn't working, and share ideas. Uh, OUSD has a tendency to work in silos. So one of the things that I want to ensure that we do is that we're building bridges, that we're able to work together. And if we see that a program or a service is working for a specific school, how do we learn from their lessons to move for other schools? But yeah, I think literacy and math will be one of my priorities. We need relevant curriculum. I can tell you as a student of color that growing up, I was always told, oh, math is difficult, math is difficult. And so a lot of our students of color are growing up with this idea that math is so difficult, that it's going to be really hard. And we need to move away from that. We really need to move in a more growing mindset set that allows us to really see our students' potential and not just where they are right now. That is something that, like, just shifting the culture and the way that we address academic achievement is also very important. We need to celebrate also those students who are doing really well. We need to ensure that when one of our schools is thriving and is doing really well, again, that they share those best practices and that we document them and we are able to celebrate them as well. But I think it's going to take a lot of evaluation and seeing what have we been doing for the last 2 decades that has resulted in such a gap.
Mhm. All right, thank you. Thank you very much. All right, the next question has to do with charter schools. So yeah, there's a lot of charter schools in District 5. The question is, why do you think that is? And what do you think the role is, or your role in supporting district schools and charter schools in District 5?
Honestly, one of the things that I've been hearing a lot, and I was doing, my wife and I were doing the math yesterday. Everybody says that our enrollment keeps declining, but it's the number of students, it's pretty sturdy throughout the district. The difference is that we now have charter schools, so we do have a significant amount. I think it was 30%. Don't quote me on that 'cause I don't remember. I think it was like 30% of our students were going into charter schools. But we're crunching numbers right now. One of the things that I want to make sure that I am able to do as a board member, and I think that I'm deviating from the question just because I want to say this because it's important as far as the charter school question is concerned. It's like really crunching the numbers, understanding our budget, knowing what money is giving to every school, how is it being spent. That is something, that is information that is not as accessible as people may think. And so one of my priorities will be ensuring that we have a balanced budget, obviously, to support our public schools. But I also think that it's important for us to be transparent about the numbers. I think that we're not having enough conversations around us losing our students to charter schools. And so long term, the charter school model is not going to be sustainable long term, because we're seeing that, at least for me, from my vantage point and the way that I am seeing this challenge, is if our charter schools do not thrive or do not succeed, all of those students can always come back to public education. If public schools, public schools do not thrive, unfortunately, all of our children cannot go to charter schools. There's going to be a deficit. So my priority will always be to continue to invest in our public operated schools, um, focusing on increasing resources, focusing on increasing services, create genuine, robust community schools is going to be one of the things that I am going to be working on. So I am following right now, as I'm doing my homework, following how much money is allocated for community schools in every District 5 school, so that I can really focus on supporting them to ensure that that money really shows a more robust way of engaging families, that is going to go towards supporting academic achievement, and that we really have community schools that have all the services that our families need. So if you ask me, one of the first things that I would do in supporting our public schools is creating a needs assessment. What do we need? What services do we already have, and what else is needed? I don't know if that answers some of the question, but
Thank you.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's a lot. That is a very heavy question because there's a lot of challenges.
thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to answer that. Okay, great. The next question is, what ideas do you have to dismantle the school to prison pipeline?
Partnership, partnership, partnership. One of the things that I pride myself is in being a coalition coordinator, and I know that there's incredible organizations within Oakland. Like, we don't even have to look any further. We don't need outside forces. The reality is that Oakland has a very strong community that really has worked really hard, from getting, again, what I was saying was like with the George Floyd resolution, and taking the police out of our schools was a first great step towards dismantling this school to prison pipeline. But to me, the reality is, if we don't have to recreate the wheel, we don't have to. We can rely on some of our community organizations, our school community as well, because I believe that one of the this is a topic that the students need to lead, and I am going to be an ally in those conversations to ensure that our students are the ones really sharing what they want their district to look like to end the school to prison pipeline, because at the end of the day, they're the most impacted. So we need them at the table making those decisions and making sure that their voices are part of the overall planning for that. So again, partnerships 100% with the community, with the students, with our educators as well, and with our families. Our families definitely don't want to see their children end up in prison, and so we want to pull them in to ensure that we let them know that this is an emergency. This is a moment for us to come together, because everybody tells me, as a candidate, again, I'm an organizer. I never really expected to go into politics in this fashion. And everybody like asked me like, why do you want to do this work? And I always say it's because I didn't have people like me growing up that were gonna give me the space to to really raise how I was feeling as a young person, and as an adult ally. I want to provide that space for our students, and I'm an organizer at heart, so it's all hands on deck. And people tell me to stay on topic, but I can't because there's so many challenges. But what we're gonna do is, we don't have to be the experts of one single thing, but we can do is partner with people who already have established some of that work. So for me, it's going to be really important to continue to build strong relationships with those community organizations that are doing the work and that have already integrated some of their programs to our schools, or have engaged some of our students within their programs. The other thing is like the Oakland community just needs more opportunities. And in this campaign trail, I've learned so much, and I want to share something that I share almost in any interview because I feel like it's pivotal for our future is we also, just like we have the Army recruiting at our school sites, we need to have our unions be part of that recruitment process or that information sessions, because um we have incredible unions in the Bay Area that do they do apprenticeships, which would allow students to study for free and get an AA degree, study science, math, chemistry. I mean, all these incredible things. I just visited one of our unions and saw their apprenticeship program, and I was just so amazed uh, by the quality of education. I was amazed by the quality um, of materials that they were using. I was so incredibly amazed by all the things that they had. And I thought to myself, why didn't I go into a union job? Why didn't I become like a welder or a plumber? I went to school for education and now I have to pay $400 a month on student loans when our education could have been free, and be a great union worker with a job that comes with dignity, that comes with respect, that comes with a great pay, comes with rights, that comes with a union that is going to protect you. Like, we also got to give our students uh, an incredible, a more robust transition to out of school. What are they going to do? What services can we provide? And how can we open opportunities for our students? And that's really what I want to do.
Thank you very much. Next question is about school closures. What is your stance on school closures, and how do you plan to vote on future proposals regarding consolidations?
I do not like the idea of school closures whatsoever. And the reason why I say that is because historically has never proved that we've been able to save a significant amount of money by closing our schools. But what we can see is the harm that our school closures have had in the Oakland community. And I'm one of them. Just recently, this is not an OUSD school, but my university closed, which is Holy Names University. I met my wife there. I got my degree there. I was so happy that I had a university in our town that focused, that had an incredible education department, and that was fitting a pipeline for teachers in Oakland. And so I know firsthand just recently what an impact closing schools can have. And from visiting schools too, just seeing the trauma, just seeing the I don't even I'm trying to look for the right word, because or you because what I'm hearing from schools, specifically when they share campuses, is this fear of merger, because our schools are different. They all have their own identity, they have their own culture, they have their own personality. And so I'm not comfortable with our students fearing that their school won't be open, that this is not going to be long term, that we continue to lose the trust of our families. I wouldn't feel comfortable with school closures unless there is a very robust community engagement process where we don't tell the community that we're closing their schools right at the end of the school year when they can no longer organize, because I've been part of that too. I've been supporting the anti-closure movement for a while now, and I think that robust community engagement will be necessary if there are going to be any closures. Impact analysis should also be conducted. I don't think any school should be closed unless we hear directly from the community how this will impact their lives. In addition to that, I don't think that OUSD in the past had a solid plan on how to support those students transition. And in those transitions, we lose a lot of students to charter schools. So if we have a merger, those two schools don't always see eye to eye. So a lot of our students end up not going to the next school, which is something that happened with like Roots and CCPA. I don't want to see more students leave our district as a result of the lack of engagement of our families and community, or because we don't have a solid plan on how we are going to retain our students, because that is something that I have never seen from OUSD, have a solid plan on how to engage community and how to retain our students when there's a school closure. And most importantly, historically, Oakland has closed majority Black and brown schools. So there has to be an equitable way to do this. And it doesn't always have to come to the expense of Black and brown students.
Thank you very much. The last question is about restorative justice practices. What do you think about the use of restorative justice practices in OUSD? And do you think there should be a bigger emphasis on using restorative justice practices?
I believe so. And I think that everybody needs to be trained on restorative justice practices and give an update every now and then to their trainings, because I found it very helpful in spaces where I was supporting families at Reach Academy and also Madison Park Academy, and we used a lot of restorative justice practices even within our families because we have a diverse group. So there's sometimes tension, there's sometimes arguments, there's always not always seeing eye to eye. So creating space for healthy communication is always helpful. I think restorative justice should be all the way around. It really should be a way of life for our students, for our administrators, for all of our staff, and for us as community members and also our board members. I think that this needs to be something that we solidified as part of the OUSD identity.
Thank you so much for your time and for your thoughtful answers to our questions.
Oh,
Really
thank
appreciate
you.
you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.